As a business leader, are you frustrated with the way you're doing it is broken? We have the solution, which also doesn't work. If so, watch this episode. So this is really, I was going to give this a harsher name than Freud was wrong. And you're a business leader. Why should you care whether Freud was wrong? But unfortunately, what he was wrong about, the way academic research trickles down into the general population, normally takes about 30 years. Now, since everything is on the internet now, it probably happens faster. Unfortunately, all it means is there's a misinterpreted propagation of knowledge, accurate scientific and academic knowledge, getting to the general population, but it tends to be more misinterpreted, spread more by people who actually don't understand it or don't have qualification in it. So it doesn't help. And this is exactly what's happened with a lot of management development, leadership development, culture development stuff. Is certainly there's some fine and excellent academics and experts out there. Unfortunately, the general population usually doesn't read or hear from them or can't afford them, so they don't know about them. So that's essentially what this is. We are in this idea of Freud and the idea that everybody was somehow broken in young age and needs to go back and visit that to fix it, is just by almost every single professional person who knows, professional expert counselor, people who know about psychology, who have real knowledge of psychology. Almost none of them, with a few exceptions, don't take anything that Freud said way back then very seriously, and it has been largely disproven. In fact, the most effective methodologies, like some of the positive psychology movement and the cognitive behavioral therapy movement, came out of the fact that so many people who believed in the methodologies originally of Freud went, well, we've been trying to help people for 20 or 30 years, and here's what we've noticed. It doesn't work. So I actually had stronger and harsher words for this title than Freud was wrong. I'll let you use your imagination. I decided not to go after them, because though I have no problem offending people in pursuit of truth, I think it would have sort of gotten in the way of useful dialogue, and that they wouldn't hear the rest of what I had to say. So I opted for the softer, he was wrong. So yeah, I've kind of done that. Let's see here. Okay, so let me give you an example of this. Well, I mentioned cognitive behavioral therapy. So off the top of my head, cognitive behavioral therapy is considered to be sort of the gold standard, quite literally the gold standard, the stuff that really works. It works fast. And in many cases, people can do it on their own. Now, all of this is to say, not that nobody is psychologically broken. It's just the Freudian model and the way that it's understood in popular consciousness is that everybody is broken and has a secret broken little inner child that they just have to go back to a few key points and then deal with that and talk about it for a few years and cry a bunch, and then they'll be okay, and then they can integrate it into their personality. Well, that's just wrong. It really doesn't work. So that's kind of what I'm getting to here. And cognitive behavioral therapy, off the top of my head, when I was writing this script, it was easy for me to find two people immediately, and that's Roy F. Baumeister, who is famous for his work on things like ego depletion and willpower, and Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Coddling of the American Mind. Both spoke in terms of CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, as the gold standard. So the reason this matters to you as a business leader, as I've already said, at least referenced in the beginning, is that unfortunately what happens in a lot of organizational change is it's taken from this mindset, which has come from the Freudian psychology and or its misinterpretation, and become, whether it's us, our reports, or our companies and the systems, they're all broken. We need to go back and find the cause and then manage it and think about it and rehash it and then figure it out, and then we'll all be okay. But that isn't really the way it works. So there are things that are broken. There are people who are psychologically broken, but they are fundamentally rare. In fact, Baumeister, in his book, The Power of Bad, talks about the fact that we always hear about post-traumatic stress disorder. However, post-traumatic growth, which is the exact opposite of that, is something like 4 or 5 times more prevalent, more common, yet we never hear about it. Why? Because we have a natural biological negativity bias that kept us alive in more dangerous times. So the unfortunate thing is that this flawed mindset that we're broken, we need to be fixed, then comes into all our corporate training. And remember that all companies are made up of people, so you can't really separate their development as their personal development from your corporate development, your company development as such. So like I said, the idea is that you go in, you spend a lot of time talking quite ineffectively. Now, just as an example, when I went to university, one of my professors said to the class, he says, look, everybody, here's the truth about traditional talk therapy. Most people who have a traumatic experience or a problem they need to resolve and they need to talk to somebody about it, they go to a therapist for about 2 years and they resolve it. The people who don't go to therapists and do basically nothing except figure it out for themselves are equally well 2 years later. In other words, whether you do the therapy, the Freudian style therapy, or not, in 2 years, you're going to be at the same place. So it gives you an idea. So what happens, unfortunately, is it suggests that we're defined by our past and we have to go into our past to fix it, which is rejected by things like cognitive behavioral therapy. It's like, where are we now? When we're talking about the past, let's talk about it only in the simplest and most pragmatic terms. What can we learn from our past mistakes? If there's any happy times back there, we can look at those, but that's less relevant to business, unless it's happy successes, I suppose. And then let's take that lesson and use it to move forward. Looking back continuously in CBT is called rumination, and it's actually a negative thing. Because if you think about the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life, or your worst business failure, and I want you to focus on that for a whole day, all you're going to do is feel like crap and less confident and so on. It is not going to help you make your business better. So that's the reason it's a problem, is because it's saying you're broken, we need to fix you, instead of saying what it is we're not broken, we're imperfect, right? So it's not, we're not broken, we're imperfect. And therefore, when you switch to the idea, whether it's for your business system, for your business, your work culture, it's still not perfect. I don't care if it's the best in the world. It's not perfect, but it's not broken either. It doesn't have to be fixed, but it can always be improved. And that includes all of your reports, all the people in your company. They're not broken, but they can be fixed. As I said, there are exceptions to that. People who have undergone really serious traumatic events that they cannot fix themselves and they need professional help. But by and large, most people who go to therapists do not need it and do not benefit from it. In fact, they'd be better to do CBT on their own with a trained CBT practitioner. So companies aren't broken, people aren't broken, but really what this comes down to is we can, by and large, do only one thing useful with our past, or 2 things useful from our past: learn from it and get fond memories from it. Everything else is ahead of us, and understanding in the frame that it's not that we're broken, but that we're imperfect also means we always see the opportunity to grow and improve our company's systems, our company's culture, and our company's individuals. So looking back is best to glean the lessons. Go visit the fond memories anytime you want. They won't do you any harm. Otherwise, look forward and improve. That's it for Crush It Club 129. Freud was wrong. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.